To begin with, could you just tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, where you come from, and how you landed in this role?
So my name is Joachim Wuilmet. I am currently in charge of customer marketing and communications for Nokia in the Middle East and Africa. So my background is about 15 years of experience with Nokia. So I joined the company in 2000 in Finland, came to the Middle East around 2006, spent a few years of my life in Japan, where I actually learned a lot about what it takes to build an innovation culture. And I've been back in the Middle East and Africa, based out of Dubai, about 2 years ago.
That's given you quite a broad spectrum internationally, and with Nokia in particular. I think, something from an outside perspective, something Nokia is renowned for is its ability to innovate, to constantly develop new approaches to its products and services. Now, innovation today in the startup community is a bit of a buzzword. What does that word mean to you?
So let me give a very simple answer to that. Innovation is about making things differently in order to create value. And value can be, having fun. People are willing to pay for fun, and there are a lot of examples of innovation bring some fun, but it can be much more than this. It can be doing things faster, more efficiently, with more safety. It can enable people to communicate in a different ways. And Nokia has been in the communication business for about 2 decades. So we have enabled communication between people, and now the technology is about mature, and we are starting to enable things to communicate together. So this brings a new array of opportunities of innovation, again, to save time, to save lives, or to entertain people in a different ways.
So with that as the context then, why do you feel innovation is important in the business world of today? What impact does it have?
Well, we know, sorry if it's a bit cliche, but we truly live in a global world, and no business is basically protected. And I think every business is somehow at risk of being disrupted sooner or later. And let me give you a very, recent example of an overnight success. Pokemon Go was not known a few weeks ago, and it has taken the world by storm. So, this is a good example that in today's world, business can basically become global success overnight.
Now, if we take Nokia as an example of that, the company has been around since 1865 and starting something that had nothing to do with communications. It's renowned for reinventing itself dramatically through the history of the organization. And that journey from where it started to where it is today is a testament to that. How much, in your opinion, how much of that reinvention has been the result of necessity as opposed to intentional, willful innovation by the organization?
I would say it's a bit of a mix of both, because I think it's innovate or die. And if you look back at the history of Nokia, which spans different business, from paper mill for cables, for consumer electrics, from network telecommunication infrastructures, from today virtual reality, digital health solutions. So I would say if the company would have not been able to reinvent itself, the paper industry now is no longer seeing any innovation. The mobile phone industry, which was a landmark milestone for Nokia, is also now today very competitive. So I would say the company basically by necessity had to reinvent itself to be able to carry on.
So you mentioned that phrase, innovate or die. It's a renowned one in the business world. Given what you've just said, would you say it's fair to say that that's a true statement in your opinion? Do you think innovation is a necessity?
Yes, absolutely. And I think, and we see, in today's world, the life cycle of innovation, the speed at which, business can be disrupted actually drives and triggers even more innovation today.
Now, in the context of anybody watching this video, anyone planning to come to your session at the conference, if you had to name 3 things that you thought were integral in order for a company and a business to drive innovation in their culture, what do you think those would be?
Well, I would say that innovation comes from people. So I would say hire smart and innovative people. I think that's basically the number one part of innovation comes from smart. and innovative people, no doubt about that. The second one I would say is about putting these people in the right framework, giving them, the tools and the processes to innovate. So in a way, innovation has to be, I would not say control, because that's not the way it should be done, but kind of steered and put into certain context, into certain directions with certain guidelines and basically tools and enablement. So I think a framework and some processes have to be there. And I would say the third point has to be stay open-minded. So innovation can come from within the company, but be open to universities, to partners. So for example, Nokia is having an open innovation challenges where we invite universities, students around the world to bring new ideas on how this Internet of Things, for example, can create some new ideas.
Now, again, driven by this culture of tech startups for the most part, there's a perception, I think, that innovation is linked to product development. And I think without doubt that's a key driver for a company. But how else can it manifest itself in a company?
Well, you're right. The technology keeps on evolving. There are more processing powers, higher resolution screens, flexible screens. So yeah, product innovation is here to stay and will continue carry on. But what we see actually even more, and probably even more importantly, is innovation around the business model. And let me give you some very common example as well, such as Uber and Airbnb. The product itself is the business model. The car, the way people drive. The smartphone has been around, people's home have been around for quite some time, but there are some, people who basically, flip things around and offer the brand new value proposition. So innovation can very much be in the business model as well.
Within the context of that innovation, in the larger spectrum, what do you think the biggest risks are? I mean, a company of Nokia's size must have attempted to innovate and failed somewhere along the line. So I'd imagine you've learned how to mitigate the risks of that happening.
I would say a caveat or a risk is to believe you are too strong to be disrupted. And I believe, and this is maybe what can explain, a certain, turn of event on the Nokia history. But your business will be disrupted, whether you like it or not. So you have two options. Either you try to resist the change, and this is not likely to end up well, or you embrace the change and try to make the best out of it. But of course, when you have something, disruptions is here to challenge a very strong existing core business. So the way to do that is probably from an organizational perspective to have different units or different businesses to do that. So if I look at Nokia today, we have a mature and very operationally driven business in the network infrastructure. And on the other side, we have what we call Nokia Technologies, which brings, all sorts of innovation which are here to disrupt. And somehow the two can work together when we talk about the Internet of Things, where, strong network infrastructure is needed, on top of which we bring certain, revolutionary new innovation on the application side.
Final question. If you had to offer one piece of advice to leaders looking to innovate or to create, let's say, a culture of innovation within their team or business, what would that be?
One is be positive. And people always think that it's impossible, but I think a leader needs to ask his people, yeah, it's a great idea, but what do you need to make it happen? How can I help you?